What is the Improving Access to Psychological Therapies, IAPT, Somerset Talking Therapies team? IAPT has been around now for many years. It was piloted originally in 2002. It was basically to provide cognitive behaviour therapy throughout the country. It was piloted in Doncaster and Newham initially, and then went out to 5 pilot sites in 2008 after the initial ones, and then has spread out throughout the country since that date, because of how successful cognitive behaviour therapy is for many people, and due to the fact that there was seen the need for further support for people with mental health difficulties, but low to moderate and some severe presentations of depression and anxiety disorders particularly. How IAPT can help? Well, IAPT was designed to help people manage everyday problems like anxiety, low mood, stress and sleep problems. We have 2 different levels of care within the service, so guided self-help and the cognitive behaviour therapy and other therapies level of care as well. And we work with people with all different kinds of anxiety disorders, such as agoraphobia, with or without panic disorder on its own, social phobia, specific phobias, generalised anxiety disorder, obsessive compulsive disorder, post-traumatic stress disorder, health anxiety, and we work with depression, and also people that have recurrent depression issues. Common reasons for referral. So people will refer themselves or are referred in by other professionals for low mood and feeling depressed, when they're feeling anxious, stressed or panicky, overwhelmed by situations that they're going through, when they have problems with low self-esteem, lack of confidence, when they're worrying, when they've got problems dealing with traumatic life events that they've gone through, whether that be very much in the past or something more recent, so something that's happened within a month to 3 months would be seen as a recent traumatic incident. Obsessions and compulsions. Sometimes we will see people doing lots of compulsive ritual kind of acts, and sometimes we've got more obsessive kind of thoughts that are troubling. Sometimes it's the 2 together, but you can see them in isolation as well. And we also are helping people to manage, whether it's through their health or another change in circumstances. So if somebody has gone through a physical health difficulty, then we might see them and help them to adjust to that. If there's been a life-altering change from a loss and grief, or also helping somebody else through difficult times, then we can also help people when they're going through those sorts of processes as well. Treatments offered. So the main treatments offered in most IAPT services is cognitive behaviour therapy, and that's because it's been seen to be an effective treatment for a range of problems that we've previously discussed what we cover. It is evidence-based, and that means that it's been researched and screened over many, many years, and CBT as we know it today has been around for about 40 years now, and it has come from previous therapies of cognitive therapy and irrational emotive behaviour therapy kind of combined. So they've been around since sort of the 50s as well. So it's a developed therapy, and CBT as we know it today has also got its own form. So a lot of cognitive behaviour therapists will be trained in other things like cognitive processing, compassion focused therapy, or acceptance and commitment therapy. And we also have many cognitive behaviour therapists who are also trained in eye movement desensitization and reprocessing therapy, which is EMDR for short as well. So on the spectrum of what cognitive behaviour therapy is, there's lots of things that we can offer and we do within cognitive behaviour therapy, mindfulness being one of those things as well. And it's recommended by the NICE guidelines, and lots of people have done lots of research over it, as I said previously, and it works to help people overcome low mood and anxiety disorders. What is CBT? Well, this model that we have here is what we use as a basic model of CBT. So CBT works on our thoughts and our behaviours and the impact that these have on our feelings and our emotions. So you can see from this model that our thoughts can have an influence on how we feel, and that can have an influence on how we behave, and that can have further influence on how we think. But these are actually interchangeable. These factors can be, it could be if you first notice a feeling and then you have a thought about that feeling and that causes you to behave in a certain way. It might be that you behave in a certain way and then you have a thought about how you've behaved and that causes you to have a feeling. So it can be interchangeable. But basically, depression and anxiety can be affected by all of these things. And we, in CBT, work on the thoughts, so the cognitive element of it, and the behaviours, which then will change how you feel. And that's what the aim is to help work through all of that process. What is CBT? So we've already said CBT is cognitive behaviour therapy. It works with our thought patterns and our behavioural patterns. It can help people with a range of different anxiety disorders and depressive disorders. There are methods for every person to help themselves with some support from another. So basically what we're trying to do is we're trying to skill people and give people skills and teach people different techniques that they will be able to continue to practice to support themselves and support others at times as well. We use some self-help materials as learning tools and techniques, as well as being quite practical in how we process and work through things with people. So we can be very practical and goal-focused, and we want it so it's something that you can feel you can practice in everyday life. It might be something that you, at a period of time when things are going well, you don't use as much, but it's something that you can also pick back up again. But so you need to be using it very, very regularly and very often initially when you are learning it, to be able to make sure that you can use it way into the future. This is an example. So imagine that you're walking down the street and you see your neighbour or a colleague from work on the other side of the street. So you wave and you smile at them, but they don't wave back. What would go through your mind? I wonder whether there's something wrong with them. Have I done something to upset them? How might you feel? That might make you feel quite anxious or worried for them. Or it might make you feel quite low if you thought you might upset them. And so what do? You might rush home. You might avoid them in the future. You might actually go over and say, "Oi, are you okay?" But those different reactions will cause different things for you. You might feel quite rejected and sad. And if you were to feel rejected and sad, then you might just avoid them in the future. But if you have that thing of, "Oh, I'm just going to go and check whether they're okay," then actually that might mean that you've already behaved differently, and actually you found out that they're okay, or actually there was something worrying them and you've been able to help them, or been at least able to sort of say, "Oh, I'm really sorry about that," to hear that you're going through that. And so the exchange has been one of feeling more positive than of leaving it. But if you do feel worried and anxious after a situation like this, and you do kind of avoid it and rush home and things, then that might mean that actually that's your approach to lots of things, and there's lots of things you're avoiding and stuff. It might mean that you might benefit from some support with that to help you see it from the other side as well and look at the different perspectives. We aim to help you. So the way we aim to help you is to help you to understand why you feel like you do. We will look at how your thoughts and your behaviours affect how you feel, and we'll agree on what you want to change and develop in new coping strategies. So we always identify your goals. So we identify your goals. What is it that you would like to change? What would you be doing? How would you like to be acting? How would it change you in the relationships that you have with other people? How would you it change the relationship you have with yourself? How would things improve? We identify unhelpful thinking styles that might be, and processes that might be happening for you, and some of those maintenance behaviours and factors, things that might be maintaining you feeling low or anxious as you do. And then we would try and work through those with somebody. So what I'm hoping to do now is take you through depression, what happens when you are depressed, how depression commonly affects behaviours and thoughts, And then I'll take you through a case study as well to try and kind of explore it a little bit further with you. What happens when someone's feeling depressed? Well, the body doesn't produce enough of the serotonin and some other hormones that we would need to help lift our mood. It feels like you're wading through treacle or sucked into a swamp. You can feel tired and exhausted a lot of the time. You might notice that you're either sleeping way too much, or that you don't sleep very well at all, or you're waking frequently at night, or you're staying up very late into the early hours of the morning and then sleeping, and become sometimes a little bit more nocturnal. So your patterns of behaviour change. You might find there's changes in your appetite. You might find that you're overeating or picking at lots of different foods, or you might have no appetite at all. You might find that you're crying a lot, or feeling really just numb and unable to feel emotional about anything. Sometimes you might find that you increase in agitation, anger, frustration. You might find that you also get an increase in anxiety and worry. And you might find that you lose your libido, your sex drive. All of these things can be affected by depression, and the therapy that we offer can help with most, if not all, of these areas. How depression commonly affects behaviour. It's all about withdrawal and avoidance from things often, or sometimes unhelpful behaviours we get into. So you might find you do more stuff of certain things, like more sleeping, which might be seen as an unhelpful behaviour. Withdrawal can be from work meetings, from the workplace. It could be from people, from situations, from particular events. Initially, it can start from withdrawal from people. So it might be avoiding phone calls, avoiding answering messages, avoiding seeing people face to face, avoiding doing the fun activities that you used to like doing. But it can extend to withdrawal from the necessary and routine activities. So, paying the necessary bills, sorting out car insurance. It can be avoidance of all of those sorts of things, as well as those routine things, taking care of your own personal hygiene, taking care of the household and the cooking, not preparing yourself regular proper meals and things like that as well. So lots of the behaviours can be affected, and lots of things will change over time. It can worsen, and so it will be for some it will be a lesser extent. For others it will be, they might really be struggling just to do those day-to-day, getting themselves up, personal hygiene sorts of things. So further on from the how depression can affect behaviour is that initially, with that withdrawal, people can get that sense of relief. Oh, I'm so relieved that I don't have to go in to do that, or I'm not going in, or I've turned that down. So encouraged to withdraw further. However, the more that we withdraw from any fun activities or things that give us a sense of achievement or closeness to others, all of those sorts of things start disappearing from our life. The fun goes out. We don't feel like we can achieve anything. We don't feel like we've got any close relationships with other people. And this can lead to feelings of guilt, sense of being inadequate, feelings of being overwhelmed by mounting tasks, feeling like you've got all of this weight on your shoulders with everything that's you've got still to do, and not knowing where to start from. And that can lead to quite a lot of fear for people as well. And sometimes that is what causes them to not come and seek help. But that's the time, when you notice those early signs, it's important to come and get help. But if it's gone past that and you're already at that later stage, then I'm here just to say it's never too late to come and ask for help, and there are ways that people can help you. I'm going to take you through a case study now. I'm going to take you through Bob's story. So Bob has already had a busy morning and is quite tired. However, it is a sunny day outside, and he's decided to spend the afternoon in the garden and trimming the hedge. And he was fed up of it being overgrown and wanted it to be done. This was normally his job, and he took pride in his garden. He went out to the garden and got his tools out of the shed and started cutting. He was already quite breathless. After what felt like only 2 minutes, he had to stop because he was out of breath. Bob got frustrated. I should be able to do this. I can't even do 2 minutes. He tried to carry on, but started cutting again. But his breathing got worse. He became angry. "I hate this." He threw down his shears and was gasping for breath. Bob went inside, feeling really defeated. Bob is feeling exasperated and thinks things are hopeless. He doesn't know what's going on and doesn't like knowing that there are things that need to be done, but he's unable to do them as he could do before because his breathing interrupts them. He has lost his confidence. So Bob's thoughts are, nobody understands what it is like being so down and breathless often. As I showed you that simple model earlier, this is the model, the vicious cycle for Bob's low mood. Bob is thinking, I should be able to do this. What's the point in trying? I feel useless. And like we said before, nobody understands me. Bob is feeling down, hopeless, fed up, tearful, guilty, embarrassed, despairing over the things he feels like he can't do anymore. And in Bob's body, what he's physically feeling is the loss of fitness, more breathless, with less exertion, low energy, fatigue, a change in his appetite and in sleep patterns. And what Bob is starting to do is pushing himself and overdoing it, and then feeling quite exhausted by it, doing less, finding it difficult to concentrate and to make decisions. He has low motivation and can't be bothered to get on and do things sometimes. He's putting things off, so procrastinating at times, avoiding doing things that he used to enjoy doing. So not seeing his friends as much, not chatting on the phone as much with people. How to manage low mood? Well, we've already seen some of Bob's thoughts. He might have other thoughts like, I will feel better when I'm not so breathless, when my mood is lifted. My physical symptoms will calm down just when I can get a handle on everything else. Nothing awful is going to happen. We would challenge unhelpful thoughts, some of the ones that were in Bob's vicious cycle that we've just seen, and some of these, some of them may seem quite neutral and not harmful at all, but could lead to further harm. So we would look at different ways of challenging unhelpful thoughts. Techniques we can cover to help manage depression. So we've already talked about helping to challenge unhelpful thoughts. So dealing with negative thoughts, we might deal with rules that we have for living, that we live by. So if I am kind to everybody else, then others will be kind to me. Beliefs of thoughts like, I'm not good enough, others can't be trusted, the world is completely dangerous, the future is really uncertain. We have all different techniques that we would do with that. So when I'm talking about challenging thoughts, we might directly challenge a negative thought by looking at evidence for and against that thought. We might look at the cost and the benefit in the short term and in the long term of holding that particular thought, or believing in that particular rule, or believing that you're not good enough. We might do things on what we call a continuum. So looking along the spectrum of not good enough, what that looks like, to what good enough looks like, and where different people are. Where would you put them on that spectrum? There are lots of different cognitive techniques. There's behavioural activation that we would do. So we look at trying to help people to become more active. So if you're really not feeling very motivated, a lot of that's gone. So you're struggling to get out and do things as much. So we start to look at how we can improve that. So we start looking at, first of all, the things that you really value doing, what pleasurable activities you like doing, what activities you do that give you a sense of achievement, or you used to do that give you a sense of achievement, or you'd like to get back to, the kind of things you like to do that will give you a sense of connection with other people, and physical activity, what you like to do, physical activity. We look at all of those. We look at how much you're currently doing, and look at how we can adapt what you're doing currently and add more in. Or if you're overdoing things, it might be about taking some time out and doing some compassionate things for yourself that we would look at and explore. We do problem solving with people to help them identify different possible solutions, what the real problem is that's troubling you as much, and then testing out those solutions to see which one best works for you. We work through sleep hygiene, helping people to know the right sort of things to do to help prepare themselves to get to sleep, and trying to help people get back into a routine of sleep. And I already briefly spoke about values, looking at what you value and what's really important in your life. That's something that we really do focus on as well. Supporting people around accepting and commitment around valued activities. So accepting the things that you might not be able to do as much of, and being committed to make the changes of the things that you can change. And then relapse management, looking at how can you maintain the progress and the gains that you've made within treatment throughout your life. You know, we all have ups and downs, we're all on that roller coaster, but there are going to be times when you can practice these techniques and you can build yourself back up again when you're doing that. So this relapse management plan is to help you to be able to do that in the future for yourself. What to do next? Well, you can refer yourself to the Somerset Talking Therapies team if you feel like you're going through any of the things that we've discussed today. You can do that by going into a search engine and typing in Somerset Talking Therapies, and it should bring up our webpage for you to click on. You can talk to your GP, your practice nurse, or your cardiac nurse, or anybody in the cardiac team. And if you're involved in any cardiac support groups, you could be referred through from them as well. So any professional can refer you through to the team, or you can make your own self-referral. And then what would happen is we would then try to allocate you to an assessment. Within a week to sort of 10 days, we hope to be able to offer you an assessment, but the assessment itself would probably take place of sort of 3 to 4 weeks after your initial referral has been received. Resources. So we do have a self-help leaflet, and you should be able to get a self-help leaflet from your GP practice online and through the cardiac rehab team. I've put on here the Mindline Somerset number, which is a 24-hour, 7 days a week number that you can call for support if you need any help with emotional or mental distress. Somerset Recovery College is on here. They run different workshops and resources for people, both online and face-to-face across the county. And Open Mental Health also, who support people with mental health problems and have various different people associated with their team. So their email address is on here, and you can access Open Mental Health through the Mindline Somerset number as well, so 24/7. And then the self-help resources. So I've just put a couple on here. So self-help with Living Life to the Full, with the Anxiety UK. We've Get Self-Help, which has got lots of resources and materials to download and to listen. So tracks that you can listen to, worksheets that you can work through. And then the CCI is the Centre for Clinical Interventions, which is an Australian website, as you can see from the email address. And it is based on cognitive behaviour therapy techniques. So a lot of the resources are constructed from different protocols and models that we use in therapy. There's workbooks on there that you can work through for depression, for anxiety, some social anxiety, some low self-esteem workbooks as well. Sometimes it can feel quite difficult to do it on your own, and that's why we would always suggest that it might be helpful to have someone to help you through with those sorts of things, or to go into more detail. So you can always refer yourself to us if you do need some further support. And there are things like the Compassionate Mind Foundation website, which is useful as well, and Act Mindfully. So that's a compassion-focused therapy website, and then an acceptance and commitment therapy website. So that's Act Mindfully or Compassionate Mind Foundation websites that are useful to look at too. A couple of questions that have been posed to me throughout treatment or when I've met people. Do people get better from this? And so my answer is the majority of people do get better and report that they see many positive changes. They're able to perhaps go and walk further, to be able to go out more often, to be able to connect with friends better. They're also able to challenge their negative thoughts. So there might have been negative thoughts that they've had for years and years and years, and they've heard themselves being quite self-critical to themselves for a long time. But by challenging them in the ways that we've done with them, they're no longer troubling them. So even if the thought does come up, it can be dismissed and wiped away, because they've got other proof to sort of say that it's not true and there's no evidence for it. The other question I can pose quite often is, will I feel like this again? And we know that when people have gone through depression or anxiety, that it can be experienced again. And each time that we do experience it, it's more likely that you will experience further bouts of the issues. But by teaching you some of the techniques, it means that you've got tools to potentially lift yourself out of it. Or if you do need further support again in the future, it might not be as intensive support that you need, or it might be that you just need a top up or something that helps to remind you of the things that you've worked through, and then you might be able to get yourself back on track. But it is likely that we all have ups and downs in life, and you'll be able to feel more resilient, and like I said already, have the tools to help you manage those symptoms when they show up, and sooner. And part of that relapse management is about identifying how can you deal with setbacks, or if the difficulties rise up again, how you would deal with that. And also we think about what you can do for the future to progress further and learn more, maybe, and that might be something that you take on board for yourself and guide yourself through after the sessions have finished. But if we can learn to use those techniques, and we can continue to use those techniques, then we can definitely get ourselves back on track a lot sooner. Thanks for listening to the presentation today. And I guess I just want to kind of leave you with a quote from somebody. Success is going from failure to failure without losing enthusiasm. Success is not final. Failure is not fatal. And it is the courage to continue that counts. All the best. Thank you.